That's we're in a spa. Some more. Yeah.
And now, without further ado, we give you Mo Pfister.
Hey everyone, it's Mo. It is Aqua Sewing and Vacuum, and welcome to those at home and everyone here in the room today. So today we are having a very unique sew time. We have it's going to be all about bag making, and we're going to learn fun tips and tricks about bag making. But I wanted to go over a couple of things before we get started, and one being that Lavender and Twine, Erica from Lavender and Twine is joining us today, and she is going to give a demonstration of all kinds of wonderful bag making tips. We are also going to host a workshop with Erica, and she will come in and we will supply machines, a kit to make the bag, and lunch. How about that? We're going to feed you too. And that is going to happen. The openings right now are on April 20th. It's a Sunday. And it's going to run 119, and she'll be able to show you the bag that we're going to be having at the workshop, and it will be really fun and exciting. What are my other? Okay. We're also joined by Ellen Kay from Bodio, and she has brought in faux leather products that we can use for bag making. A lot of these beautiful bags are made with Ellen's product, and that is all for sale. So when you're looking at what the cost of this will be, you'll look at your sheet. Oh, we're going to hand out a sheet. You will look at the sheet, and they're color coded. So when you flip, there they are. When you look at the vinyl and you flip over the corner, there'll be a color tag. And the color tag will let you know it's either green or orange or red or whatever. And that is going to allow you, that'll let you know the price. Also, Ellen has brought scraps and remnants, and these are all a great size. Many of the pieces included here will work with all of these, but she also sells upholstery. So if you like that idea, her kits that she's made up here of her remnants, there's some upholstery fabrics in here that are just gorgeous. So I'll have you take a look at this. They're color coded orange and blue. And she also has a little basket of earrings, and the earrings are zipper pulls. They're super cute, and the price of those are blue. So when you see your little list, blue. I'm going to run and grab something that I want to show you also. I would bring our Barb forward, but she is my camera person today. So Barb has a 3D printer and often makes things for us. And Barb has this, it has a cute little top that goes on top of it, and it's a cup that holds your pins. But at the base of it, it has a magnet. So you, when you put it on your table, you can reach for your pins. And then when you're done, boop, put the lid on and put it away. Awesome. And this is going to be on your price sheet too. This I love. I just finished putting binding on 2 quilts, and this is to hold your binding. And so when you're going to go to the sewing machine, it comes straight off. Now I like to put mine on a necklace and have it come straight off me like this and sew directly on my quilt. But the other exciting thing is she made the hole here large enough so that it can go on your knee lift. You know, the little knee lift that comes with all our machines, and then you're just pulling binding off the side and going straight to your quilt. So this is handy. You're not going to get knotted up in your binding or yanking it all over your shoulder, because this will tame it and keep it in great order. So this is going to be on that price sheet as well. Am I forgetting anything? The only other thing I'll announce is, oh yeah, Riley Blake is really well known for doing a shop hop. They've done the Eastern states for many, many years. I think about 16 years now. And they will cover a region. Some of them are 6 states. Some of them are a single state. And it will run for an entire month. And what happens is they're coming to the West Coast for the first time. And we have magazines for sale, and the magazine is your passport. And the magazine shows you all the quilts. It's a beautiful magazine. All the quilt shops, everybody who is going to be involved in this shop hop. And all through the month of April and May, when you go into a shop and you have them stamp your passport, you're going to get a little square of fabric that has a design on it. So you could use those squares to make a quilt or whatever you'd like to do with them. But that is going to be the Pacific Northwest shop hop. Very different from the traditional one we do in June. That will happen as well. But this one is, we get to take part because we don't have to buy yardage. We will have charm packs, layer cakes, things like that for sale, pack quarters. So they let us do briquettes, and that's what allows us to take part in that. So we're really excited. I think I have covered everything. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Erica, and she is going to just fill your mind with wonderful things.
Oh, thank you. I'm Erica. I am the designer and owner for Lavender and Twine. I designed the patterns, the sewing patterns for each of these bags up here, and these ones here as well. So I've made most of these bags except for these two and these two. And this one, they were all made by Ellen over here. But I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about just some general bag making ideas and tips. And the biggest thing that I come across online in the community is how to make a structured bag. And most of my patterns are meant to be made with vinyl, but they can also be made with cotton as well. Like this one is a canvas, a cotton canvas. This one is cotton canvas. And this has some cotton canvas on the outside. So you have options for the exterior that you would like to, for the material that you would like to use. But a lot of my bags are structured in the sense that they'll stand up on their own, like this one here. This one will stand up on its own, and it's quite structured, you can tell there. But the main thing to remember is the materials that you use. You don't have to have heavy, stiff material on the outside of your bag in order to make a structured bag. The stabilizers that you use in the bag is where the structure is going to come from. So I'm going to talk to you guys about great bag making materials, stabilizers and interfacings, and where to kind of start with all of that. So if we're talking vinyl, online in the community, you're going to hear a lot of people say vinyl or faux leather, and those are the same things. So vinyl and faux leather, it's just two different terms for the same thing. A lot of the times people will say vinyl when it has more of a synthetic texture to it, like this here has kind of like a grid texture. And then they'll say faux leather if it mimics more of a leather-like texture, kind of like this one here. So Ellen has brought a bunch of faux leathers and vinyls from her shop here, so you can kind of check those out. And some of them have textures and some of them kind of mimic more of a leather-like feel, but they're all the same kind of vinyl faux leather kind of material. You want to choose a vinyl that has a good backing for bag making. So my rule of thumb that I like to do is felt or woven backing on the vinyl. And you want to make sure that if you kind of pinch one layer and kind of move your fingers like this, you don't want the backing to move independently from the material, the actual vinyl, because that will cause it to not feed through your machine properly, and it'll kind of move and shift, and all the nice seams won't look so great. So if you're picking out vinyl, there's a lot of different kinds of vinyls. You're going to see upholstery vinyl and marine vinyl out there, and you're going to kind of find which ones you like best. And all of the ones that are here today are great for bag making, so that's a really good place to start. And you want to make sure that it's pliable and thin, not necessarily delicate like you can rip it or anything like that, but pliable, thin, and not too heavy. But that backing, it needs to not move independently, like if you were to shift it. So that's a really good rule of thumb when it comes to choosing vinyls for your bag. The liners of bags are typically cotton, quilting cotton, or canvas. There are a lot of options when it comes to like waterproof canvas and water resistant canvas and water resistant Oxford. And I will go over what all of those mean. Waterproof canvas it's a synthetic, it's a canvas with like a rubbery back on it. So waterproof, meaning water will never go through that fabric, and it'll protect the inside of your bag if you spill anything inside. Water resistant canvas is not waterproof in the sense that it will always protect against water spills or anything. It is water resistant, meaning eventually that water will go through it. And then water resistant Oxford is just because it's a synthetic material, it can't be called canvas. So they just put a title on it. They call it Oxford. The reason why I'm telling you all of this is because I'm going to go into stabilizers and interfacings, and the water resistant and waterproof things. Fabrics don't need to be interfaced. So you really don't want to iron over waterproof material because that backing, that rubber-like backing, will melt. So, and I have a lot of examples of waterproof canvas up here in the liners of these bags. So you can come up and kind of feel what I'm talking about. So that's a really common material to use in the liners if you don't want to use quilting cotton or canvas. Another good reason to use in either waterproof or water resistant materials is so that you don't have to cut as much. You don't have to cut the interfacing that goes along with that cotton. And so it's just like cutting that out of the process. The stabilizers and the interfacing is what I want to really touch on and spend a lot of time on. Like I said before, the structure of a bag doesn't come from the materials like vinyl and the outside materials. It comes from the stabilizers. And so I'm going to talk about the main stabilizers that we use in the bag making community. And I have some kind of samples here. One of the more common stabilizers is called Decoville Light. And this is the exterior of a bag. It's actually this pattern, but I haven't turned it right side out yet. So that's the inside. And so you can see that every piece is covered with stabilizer. And then on the bottom it is as well. And I can go through all of the different stabilizers that I've used. So this is Decoville Light. It is it's not a woven interfacing. It's a stabilizer that feels a little bit like construction paper. And there's a difference between stabilizers and interfacing. And I want to really make that what is the word? Distinction. Thank you. I want to make that distinction because those words are used interchangeably in the community sometimes, and I want to make sure they stay separate. So the stabilizer is used to give the structure to the bag, but this is more of a non-woven kind of almost construction paper feeling stabilizer. And it is a good substitute for like foam or fusible fleece. And I have some patterns that call for foam. This pattern calls for foam. Foam causes the bag to be very kind of puffy, and it kind of springs back. So like if you were to crunch this bag, it'll spring back, and it won't like crease or anything or fold. And it's good for some bags, but some bags you don't want to be puffy. So this is a really good one if you are wanting to have it kind of be a thin structured bag. And I've used it on, this one's the finished version of this. So it's very structured and not too puffy at all. So the bottom, I used Decoville Heavy. So, and I can give you all the codes for these. They're like Pellin products, so they each have codes. But the Decoville Light, and then there's Decoville Heavy, which I think they just called Decoville. It's not necessarily called Heavy, but it is the heavier version. It's on the bottom, and you typically use that for bases. But I've covered it over with a woven interfacing just to keep it from lifting during construction. So you can see that Actually, you'll kind of get a better picture of it on the finished product. But the base of the bag, the stabilizer ends right here and right here so that it doesn't go all the way up to the top. And then I've covered it over with the SF101. So it has, this one has feet in it, and that helps it kind of get secured as well. So there's that.
Do you want me to send around
Yeah.
an example?
So hang on, I have
You
just
did that one.
introduced this one. Let's see. This swatch is just a regular vinyl, bag making vinyl, and it's got Decoville light on it. But I fused only the top half so that you can see right here. This is unfused, but you can see how it's kind of a little bit more flimsy. And you would think that like this isn't going to give structure to my bag. It's so flimsy. But you'll see that once it's pressed and once it's fused to the actual vinyl, it gets much more sturdy. So I've left the bottom unfused so you can see the difference. So that's the Decoville Light.
And it does have the number. It's a Pelon 525.
And then this one has the Decoville Heavy on it. And like I did with that, the base of this bag, I covered it over with the SF101. So you can see there's SF101, which is just a woven interfacing. And then the Decoville Heavy, which is much heavier than the light, but it still doesn't feel like it would be good for a base until you fuse it. And then you can see up here, it's actually quite sturdy. So you can see that. And then the alternative to the Decoville Light would be foam. And there's different kinds of foam, definitely fusible foam, and there's non-fusible foam. And I like to use non-fusible foam, but it doesn't matter if you use fusible foam, but I don't like to fuse it ever because the instructions typically call for you to iron on the front of your material. And you don't want to do that with vinyl because it'll melt. So I always just stick the foam to the material with double-sided tape. And then I will cover it over with the SF101, and then I'll just fuse around the edges and over the whole thing, but like really get the edges well, and then it'll kind of sandwich it in and secure it that way.
And just to step in, we've been using, this is a product by Annie, and it's 1/8 of an inch, and it's a double-sided tape. And it is stickier than the wash away we've used in the past, or dreads or anything like this. This really holds it down, and yeah, really is awesome.
So 1/8 inch is great. I also use quarter. I mean, personally, I use a 3/16 just because the brand I use does have quarter, but 1/4 of an inch is a really good one to use, especially if you're working with a pattern that has either a 3/8 inch seam allowance or a 1/2 inch seam allowance, which I typically do 1/2 inch on my patterns, but a lot of these up here are 3/8. But that just means the tape will stay in your seam allowance and you won't sew through it too often. So here's the foam. We can pass that one around.
Do you have a bag that has the foam?
Yeah, this one has foam. I think that's all for foam. This one's fusible fleece, and the rest are Decoville Light or none. This one doesn't have any. But you can see how puffy that one is, and that one's meant to be puffy, so I was happy to use the foam on that one.
I do too.
Thank you.
Make sure it's still there.
I know. The last alternative to Decoville Light is the fusible fleece, and there's two main ones. One is called Thermolam Plus, which is what this is, and the difference is just the thickness and the hand that it gives.
No, quite.
And so you can see how the difference between when it's fused and when it's not fused, it's a little bit thicker and it's a little bit fluffier before it's fused, and then you can see how flat it gets once you press it. So that one can go around. And then the last stabilizer that I use typically is Peltex. And this is also a Pellon product. It is much sturdier than the Decoville Heavy. So sometimes I will use that on the base of bags. Oftentimes it is fusible. You can even get the double-sided fusible if you want, or not fusible at all. But I never fuse it because, again, you have to do that from the front of the fabric, and I never I always use vinyl, so I never get the opportunity to do that. But I would put it on the same exact way, where I would either use like double-sided tape to put it on and then do the SF-101 over the top. This bag has feet that I've installed, so that also helps keep the Peltex in place once you sew it. And because you never sew over the Peltex. And I'll get into that too. Thank you. So that was like a quick rundown of the stabilizers that we typically use. Sorry, I'm throwing so much information at you.
What is the fusible fleece? What do you use that for?
So that one is used for like in substitution to the Decovil Light. So I could have done all of this in the fusible fleece. It would have just given a different kind of hand to the bag. Yeah, a little bit more squishy.
Yeah.
And then so that was all stabilizers. And then the interfacing, really the kind of default interfacing that I use is just SF-101 woven interfacing, which is good for your cottons, your liner cottons and things like that. Some of my bags up here exteriors are cotton as well. So this one's a canvas and this one's a canvas. So I've actually used 2 layers of SF-101 on the exterior of these to give it the same kind of thickness and sturdiness as the vinyl. And so that's an option. But all of these that have cotton on the inside, no matter what the piece is, they get interfaced. So that's kind of my rule of thumb, is like any liner, any pocket that has cotton just gets interfaced no matter what.
Erica,
Yes.
there was a question back here about you soak the foam. So you attach the Peltex using SF-101. How do you attach the foam up?
So I would do the same thing. If you have the swatch near you of the foam, I attached it with the double-sided tape and then put the SF-101 over that foam.
So you're not sewing through it when you're sewing.
Not typically, but you can.
Yeah.
And I'm only speaking to my patterns. I know other patterns put the foam into the seam allowance, so you sew through it no matter what. I typically don't do that, just to reduce bulk in your seam allowances. But I can tell you now, I can like segue into that subject of how to keep bulk down in your seam allowances, because some of these bags get to be a lot of layers. And sometimes you have to kind of choose materials based on what your machine can handle in terms of thickness and everything like that. So the bulk reducing steps that I bake right into my patterns are shown kind of in this bag here, where as you can see, the stabilizer doesn't go all the way to the edge of a lot of my pieces, like up here. And then on the side here, you can see really well that it doesn't go all the way to the edge. Now, that is because we don't want the stabilizer and the bulk to be in the seam allowances. And that helps your machine get through the thickness that you have there. But there are strategic places where I will keep this stabilizer inside seam allowances. And all of that is just right in the patterns. So in my patterns, you have specific pattern pieces for your stabilizers. So you have the pattern pieces for the exterior pieces and the liners, and then you have different pattern pieces for these stabilizers, because the stabilizers are smaller than the actual exterior pieces. So, and then I'll also have a fusing and prep section in the pattern that tells you what position to fuse your stabilizers to the exteriors. So I can show you like an example of the stabilizer going all the way to the edge of a piece. So like down here, it's all the way to the edge, and that is for a reason. This bag right here, Ellen made this bag. You can see this seam here. The back panel of this bag, the stabilizer goes all the way to the edge. This side panel, the stabilizer stops before the edge, like on that bag. And that's because all of the seam allowance is pointing that way. So you point it that way and then you top stitch it, right? And when I was designing this bag, I stopped the stabilizer right before the edge of the panel. And I noticed that this seam right here was buckling. So I thought, okay, maybe I need to keep the seam or keep the stabilizer in the seam allowance, and now it is smooth. It doesn't buckle anymore like it was doing that. So now it doesn't do that anymore. So there's very strategic ways to utilize your stabilizers, and that's all inside the pattern. So you don't have to worry about that, but you will, with practice, start to realize like why you're fusing your stabilizers in specific ways. So so that is a common tip that I'll use. This bag here, I created the exterior, but I haven't turned it right side out yet and put the liner in. I also wanted to share tips of different bag making techniques utilizing this kind of exterior. One of them is the rivets that I use. So bag making utilizes a lot of rivets, especially my patterns. You can see like there's a lot of rivets, and it's a really, really good tool to invest in if you're serious about bag making is a rivet press. I just use a little tabletop press that has a handle, and then you know that your rivets are being pressed securely and they won't pop out. There are hand tools that you can use with hammers too, and they can be very good, but I hear a lot of people say that they might pop out. So a table press is a good investment to make. But for these rivets, I just wanted to share that I will stabilize the back of them with a piece of Peltex that went around. Just a little piece of Peltex, because if you think about it, that rivet there is this one here. And if you're carrying the bag and you're opening it like that, there's a chance and a potential for that rivet to pull through the fabric. So I like to put a little bit of Peltex there just to gives the rivet a little bit more grip so that it doesn't have just that exterior material to hang on to, basically. So that is that's true for rivets and also for like feet. So underneath here, you'll see there's duct tape over it, but I put the feet through the base, then I put the Peltex and then the washer for the feet, then duct tape over it, because the metal will rub against the liner. Once this is all put together, you don't want that cotton liner rubbing against the metal of your feet. So duct tape over that is will prevent that from happening. So as I said before, the stabilizers are oftentimes firmer once they're fused, but also you want to let them cool and cure before you work with them. And Decovil Light, oftentimes you would need to do like a 30-minute cool down period. And so I always cut and fuse and then put it aside and cut something else and fuse. And you can also throw it in the fridge, and which is what I do a lot if I only have like 5 minutes, but it'll just suck the heat right out of it and it'll be cured. But you don't want to work with it and bend it and fold it while it's still warm, and it could potentially lift or wrinkle, and you don't want that. So whatever you fuse, you definitely want to make sure it cools for a good amount of time before you start working with it. My patterns, I typically try to keep the stabilizers down to two different ones per pattern. For this one, obviously, I have the Decovil Light and the Decovil Heavy, and then SF101 is interfacing, not stabilizer. So I try to keep it to two. A good example of that is this one here. This is Welkin, and I did fusible fleece on the body and Decovil Light on the flap. And that is just because it's of how I wanted the bag to look and sit and feel. So fluffy and softer, but also structured. So fusible fleece on the body. But I wanted the flap to be thin but structured. And that is also because up here, so the flap is all one piece. This piece is the same as this piece. There's no seams there. And I wanted the flap to stand up right here, which is Decovil Light's very good at making that happen. And then this edge, this folded over edge, is this piece here has a piece of Decovil Light that goes all the way up and it stops right here. And then this piece has another piece of Decovil Light here, and they're just butted up against each other so that when you make that fold, it's nice and crisp. It's a nice crisp straight line. So that is another kind of strategic way to use these stabilizers, is when you need to have like a really straight and crisp fold on something, and then you can just butt those up, fuse them like that, and then your material will automatically want to fold right there. So, and that's all in the pattern too. You don't have to come up with that yourself. Like in my fusing and prep, I will show you how, and it's not in every pattern either. I'll show you how to fuse those to get that kind of effect. So like, as you can see, like right here, this seam here, that's not top stitched, but it stays open. And that's because the Decova light that I used goes all the way to the seam, but not past it. And that's the same on this piece too. It goes all the way to the seam, but not past it. So when you sew those together, and they want to open up because the stabilizer will keep that structured. So it's very good to have like good placement of your stabilizers and things like that. That also allows for your machine to be able to handle more layers of fabric. Bags, typically you can get up to like 4 or 5 layers of vinyl and maybe like 1 layer of stabilizer all in one stitch. And it can get to be a little much depending on your machine and the materials that you've chosen. So it's a good rule of thumb, like for a strap, to make sure that whatever vinyl you're choosing, it can be 4 layers. Then you'll always know if you can get through your machine at 4 layers, you know that your strap's going to be good because this is a 4-layer strap. But if you can see here, this connector goes up and then folds over, and then it's stitched to this panel here. So right here is 4 layers of vinyl, then 1 layer of vinyl and stabilizer, and you're stitching through all of that. So you want to make sure that needle, thread, your machine, and whatever materials you're choosing are going to be good for those layers. So thread, needle, and stitch length are 3 good things, thank you, to think about. So for me, and this is good for my machine, I use the Gutermann's extra strong thread, which doesn't actually say the weight or the text on it, but I've done a little bit of research and figured out that it's about a text 70, I believe, and it's equal to like a Mara 100. It's a little bit of a heavier thread, and you really want to use whatever your machine can handle in its bobbin. So I don't like to have something that's different in the top than it is at the bottom. I want it to be the same, or else your tension is going to be kind of wonky and off. So whatever your machine can handle in the bottom is going to be good for your whole bag. And even if it's just a universal thread, that's fine too. I just use a little bit of a heavier because my machine can handle it. And I just use a Brother 1500, PQ 1500, PS. It's the same as the 1800 Juki. But anyway, so you can definitely just use like a sew-all thread, but the thing that you want to make sure of is that it's poly. Cotton thread will be it will break too easily. It's not strong enough for bags. Poly or nylon, but I know a lot of machines are kind of picky about nylon, so poly is a good way to go. But definitely test it. And then for needle, I never go lower than a 90-14 on my machine, but on the machine that I'm using now, the Brother, I used to use a Juki. The machine I'm using now doesn't like the 90-14 needle, so I bumped it up to 100, and that's what I use all the time now. If you're using a 90-14, you can use like a universal, or a Microtex is good because they're extra sharp, but the 100 size doesn't come in Microtex, so I just use a universal 100. And then stitch length. I never go below a 4 on my stitch length for both construction and top stitching. When you're working with vinyl, you don't really want to go any lower than like a 3.5 or a 3 even. because the holes, when you punch holes in vinyl, they don't heal like cotton does. The holes don't go away. So if you have holes that are too close together, it might perforate and tear. So you want to make sure your stitch length is a little bit longer. And again, I go like for a 4. And that way there's less chance of it ripping. So thread, that's about it. Yeah. For that. Okay. So let's see, where am I just threw a bunch at you guys. We can go through like what each of these are.
If I could explain quickly, because I handed their paperwork out.
Oh,
late.
okay, gotcha.
So you have paperwork here, and it lists all her different bags. And if you pick up your phone on the camera setting and go to the QR code, it will go straight to her website. And the reason we're doing it this way is if you buy a pattern directly from her, you get download the pattern, the instructions, but it also comes with a video. So she has video classes through each and every bag that she's selling. And so we thought that was the best thing for you. And also I'll send out a shout out giving you the websites of both these gals when SewTime is all done. We'll send out a newsletter with their links. But she is going to go through and tell you which bag is what. So if you want to put a note going, ooh, I want to make that one. Like this, you know, I want to make that one. And
What's the name of that one?
Fernway.
adorable. Rename it. And then also I want to say, I'm just one more commercial about that class we're doing on the 20th. This is the bag that we're making, and here it is made up. Adorable. And it is going to be done, so we all know, no surprises. It will be done in a, it's called Regal Blue, and the hardware is going to be this antique gold. There are only 11 spots left open. One sold out. One sold out.
Yeah, we had to add a second one just now.
Yeah, because the morning class filled it, and we thought that's not fair to you all.
So the rest of my patterns up here, I can go through each of them and just let you know that I choose really weird names for my patterns, and there's a reason for that, but they're very unique names. This one's called Welkin, and it is a backpack crossbody handbag convertible. This one doesn't actually have the hooks that you need for it to be a backpack, but it's just just basically a crossbody. Has a flap, and then on the inside it has just a slip pocket and a zipper pocket. So you can come up at the end as well and just like
I have to do the camera.
fondle each of
I
these
get to
bags.
be Vanna.
And I think the inside of that one is the waterproof canvas that I was telling you guys about before. So this one is called Solasta. It is also a backpack. Backpack crossbody convertible, meaning that the sides go in like this, and you can also carry it like that. This one comes in 2 different sizes. This is the handbag size, and there's also a larger size, which is the day bag size. There is a zipper pocket on the back, and underneath the flap here, there's a pocket, and then it just opens up here at the top. There's 2 zipper pockets, or there's 2 pockets. One's a zipper and one's a slip, but you could easily add a zipper to that second one. And then there's a slip zip pocket there. So lots of options with this one. Oh, yeah, of course. This one is called Janine. And it was my very first pattern that I ever did. And I have revamped it, though. At the end of 2022, I completely redid the pattern. The end result is exactly the same, but the pattern was just brought up to my current standards as far as like how many pages of resources I give you and like the writing style and all that. If you open it up, there's this center zip divider that has card slots, and they're vertical card slots, but you can get more than just 3 in there. And then it's a perfect little bag for like events or traveling. I took one to Hawaii and wore it the entire time, and it was perfect. Perfect for that kind of like, you might hike today, you might not, you're not sure. This one is Moonwake, and it was my first kind of semi-slouchy bag. This one I carried for a long time, so it might be a little bit like out of shape, and there's like some cat scratches on the bottom. But this one's a really good one if you are new to hardware, because it's a good practice. There's a lot of hardware on this one, and a lot of vendors will have kits for it, so you don't have to worry about getting all the hardware singly. But the exterior of this one actually comes together pretty fast because all you're doing, the detailed parts are all of the straps, and there's 4 of them. So you can just do those all at the same time, and then it's done. It comes with 2 closure options. So the first one is 2 snaps that go here, but this one I didn't put the snaps in. I put the zipper closure option in. And then it has the zipper pocket and a slip pocket on the inside. And this one also has the waterproof canvas on the inside as well. So it was meant to be a semi-slouchy bag, meaning if there's things in it and weight in it, it just slouches a little bit on the inside when it's hanging, kind of like that. And it has strategic stabilizer. So it has the Decovil light on there, but it dips right here. So it gives it that structure where it'll stand up, but also the slouch will help it, like there's no stabilizer here, so it helps it slouch a bit, which is really nice when you're carrying it. It's very soft. Okay, sorry.
We got the keyboard today.
This one is called Vadin. It's one of my newer patterns. Actually, it's about a year old. The flap is purely decorative. There's nothing under there except for there's zipper. This pocket goes all the way through, and then to this, there you go. Basically a muff. And the front is the same as the back, so there's zippers on the back as well. And then has a zipper panel closure at the top, and on the inside another waterproof canvas. Actually, this is water resistant, and then there's the zip slip pocket there. So that is my Vadin pattern. Handbag crossbody. Thank you. This one is Brystone, and it is it has a lot of options for the strap as well. And I wanted to do something interesting with the strap, so I kind of did like this 4-layer strap that has these wraps. And there's options for the wrap to be just like 1 in the center, 1 on the edge, or like 2 on the edge. And then underneath the flap, there's a pocket. And then the opening is a zipper with a zipper overlay. Most of the zipper pockets that I have inside my patterns have the zipper overlay, which looks really nice. And then the slip pocket on the other side. So that is Brystone. Thank you. This one is Rudinea, which is the same as this one. Ellen made this one, and I made this one, but it's in a print that's so busy that you can't see any of the seams. So I'm glad that you brought this one, Ellen, so I can show you the seam that I was talking about. But the zipper also goes all the way through to the other side, and then it closes with a zipper panel as well. And then you have the zipper pocket and the slip pocket. Again, waterproof canvas, so you can see that as well. And this one has a very unique connector type. So these are hidden connectors, but I also have this octagon style, I think octagon patch, and then the rolled handle technique. So it's very popular. Rolled handles are really awesome. This is the first time I ever did a rolled handle when I wrote this pattern. So I feel like it's a bit different than the technique other designers use. And mine doesn't utilize any raw edges. So these are all, these edges are all hidden. And it was really nice to make I used tubing inside there. So not cording like get it at Home Depot. It's like a 3/8 inch tubing. This one is Alaula. It's one of my earlier patterns. The handle on this one, I like to just carry my bags in my elbow like this. But if you wanted to make the handle longer for your shoulder, that is completely customizable. You can do whatever length that you would like on the handle. And then it has hooks for crossbody strap as well. And this one was a request by people in the community for me to make the bag when they saw a picture of it was a Coach dupe, I think. And they're like, we want the pattern for that. And it didn't exist. So they asked me and commissioned me. And so I made it. But this one has, again, the zipper and slip on the inside, which is probably hard to see because it's black. But that was one of my earlier patterns. Closes with the zipper closure. Just like that. And that one's good. That one's the one I used reusable fleece on. And the exterior is the vinyl plus the print is cotton canvas. And every time I create a pattern, and I make about 6 bags to promote the pattern, but I like to do at least one in all cotton or cotton canvas just to show everybody that it can be done. And also to give me kind of a feel of how much stabilizer and interfacing do I need to make the exterior of the bag structured enough, but also like behave like a vinyl bag. So this one, it's completely empty, but it stands up on its own, even though it's all cotton. So actually the base is vinyl, but everything else is cotton. This one here is Hinterland. So like a shoulder bag. And it doesn't have any stabilizer on the outside of the bag. It's meant to be slouchy, but the stabilizing comes from the center divider pocket. So that center divider pocket has stabilizer in it. So that's where its structure comes from. That's why it stands on its own. And it has slip pockets in the divider, and also it unzips at the top for a pretty deep pocket. And then the rest closes with magnets, and then you have a closure strap. So for other bags, not this one because I have a label right here, but for other bags, and in the pattern, I'll show you how to add like a ring at the bottom of this closure strap to give it kind of a little bit of a bling, but I had my label there, so I didn't add that ring. But other than that, it could also be a crossbody. It just depends on what length the strap that you want to put on there. And then we have one of my kind of more advanced patterns. This is Samarin. And I don't like to put skill levels on my bags because I do believe that anybody can make anything as long as they watch the videos, they go slow enough, they ask questions if they need to. But I will say that curves are typically more of an advanced thing, and this one has some curves on it, but still have the confidence that anybody really could make this. There is a zipper on the back, and then 2 zipper pockets with the zipper overlay on the inside there. And this one has a different way of attaching the main closure zipper. A lot of my bags have this panel like that, this panel here, which is kind of different than other bags that you see. I make my panels so you only have to cut 2 pieces rather than 4 pieces. So it's like a little bit of a less of a cutting situation. But with this one, I wanted to do something different. So I put the zipper right into the zipper pocket overlay. So you don't have to cut extra pieces on there either. So that is Samarin. And then that one can be a shoulder bag, but also it has extra hardware, or you can add extra hardware. I don't think I did that for this one here to clip a crossbody strap to. Oh, did you want to show it? So Ellen made these 2 bags. This one is a Laula, so it's the same as this one here, just you can see in a different colorway. She also chose to use hardware for the connectors rather than the hidden connectors that I have in the pattern. So it's really easy to go shopping for hardware and then just go down the rabbit hole and put everything in your cart and just be excited for hardware. It's really easy to do that, but these are really cool. One thing I will say is that when you're adding hardware connectors to a bag, you want to stabilize the back of it with some of that Peltex. And that way, if there's screws or prongs or anything that are connecting these hardware to your bag, it won't only have the thin material of the edge that you're taking onto, because the weight of that bag is going to need some stabilizing. So add the Peltex to the back of your connectors, your hardware, and you should be good to go. Where am I here? I think it's down here somewhere.
I think
Oh. She also made Janine, and she did it a little bit different than my pattern. If you can see, there's a seam at the top here. She just omitted that, so it just curves over instead. And she made the flap go down a little bit farther to accommodate the lift that it had. But it's actually really cute like that. I really like it. And so she made that one because she needed to. She was worried that it would dump out the stuff if she had.
Well, you saw me dump it out of the car.
Yeah. She already did that once today.
My toss winds up upside down.
Okay, so moving on to down here, I've got a wallet pattern. This is the Zephyr, and these closure bars are pretty common in the community at different vendors. You can find these wallet closure bars. There is a flap and a pocket. This pocket is big enough for a passport. I wanted to make this wallet kind of be a universal, like you don't need anything else kind of wallet, but I want to say bag, but it's not, because when you open it up, it opens flat, and you've got 3 card slots here, vertical card slots that you can double up your cards into. There's a pocket here and a zipper. There's also a pocket here that's big enough for a large phone, and it'll still close nicely. So you can carry your phone plus your other essentials. And there's also card slots here, 3 of them, which you can, again, double up on if you want to. So that one is Zephyr. And you want to make sure, again, like there's definitely opportunity for it to be too bulky to fit into your wallet closure. Just make sure that you're choosing thinner pliable vinyl. And there's also some bulk reducing steps that I added to the pattern so that to give you the best chance to get the material into the channel of your bars. This one is my latest pattern. It is called Fernway, and it's the one that I was saying I used foam in because I wanted it to kind of be bouncy, and whatever you carry in this bag, I want it to be protected. So I don't have, this one isn't one that you really carry unless you want to, you can make it that way, but it's kind of like a travel cosmetic type bag. I have one that I put all my sewing notions in. If I ever travel and sew, I'll put all my scissors and everything in there. You can use it for snacks for like a road trip. But it's really cool how much more you can get into the bag than you think. It's definitely bigger on the inside. It has a zipper pocket and a split slip pocket, but you don't have to split the zip pocket or the slipper. You don't have to split the slip pocket if you don't want to. That's a lot to say. But I think I can get like full bottles of shampoo in here. I think it's very deceiving because this is deep. This is a deep kind of lid. So you can have products that are taller than the bag, and then you can still close it and zip it. It's kind of cool to see how much you can get in here. But this is also my first pattern that I have ventured into binding. So I've bound a lot of bags in my past, but I've never written a pattern for it. And only the top, the lid, is bound. So everything else is turned. But it's actually so easy. And everything goes together really, really well. But this zipper panel right here actually butts up against each other inside this tab. So you don't have to make the ends of it look pretty at all. You don't even have to fold your binding over so that it's pretty and finished, which is one of the best things about bags like this, where it's like, oh, I don't have to finish that off really nicely. So I just cut it off and leave it because it's going to be hidden behind this tab. So that's my latest pattern, and it's been a really huge hit. Thank you. I'll let you do that. This one, which I was demonstrating on before, is kind of my most popular pattern. It's called Harriet. And this one launched with Bag of the Month Club. And then I was able to launch it for myself 3 months later. But it's probably my most popular one. And then it's got the interesting kind of side panel where the base goes all the way up to the side, mirrors that point. But there's a pocket here and a pocket on the back. So the front and the back are the same. It closes with that zipper panel that I was telling you about. And then it has the split pocket and the overlay zipper pocket on the inside. This one also comes with the instructions for my stitchless zipper end, because a lot of the times you can sew through a zipper teeth as long as they're not metal. If you typically use like nylon coil for bag making and a number 5. But if you stitch across, sometimes your top stitching kind of gets wonky, or it gets the tension gets off or something like that. So I wanted to create one that wasn't sewing the tab on, so you just rivet it on like that, and it becomes like a really good handle for when you're zipping it up. You can just grab it, and then it's easy to zip. Some of my patterns actually also utilize that. Like I think I put it into Brystone. I'm not sure. I used hardware for that one. I put it into some of my other patterns as well because it's just such a good technique. This is also Pariah, but Ellen made this one. So it's the same pattern. And then I do believe there is one more.
You sold it.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so there's 2 more because there was the applique, which you can see on my website, but it is more of a wallet / pouch. So the wallet portion opens up, there's card slots and ID windows, and then the pouch actually unzips and you can put other essentials inside there. I also have the petrichor on my website, which I don't have an example here for, or a good example. I do, but it's super squished and I don't want to show you. But that one was my second pattern, and it is a backpack crossbody type thing. So those are all my patterns. I feel like I totally missed introducing myself. I literally just dove right into the information, and I feel like that just threw everything off. But I just wanted to say,
We didn't drink at lunch.
I know we went to lunch right before this, and I lost all my brain power. But yeah, I have been sewing since I was probably 12, and then I started bag making in 2015, and then I started pattern designing in 2019. So I'm still going and should have something out soon, but I don't have a date for it yet. But bag making is a really easy bug to get bitten by. And there's a lot of differences between that and like quilting or garment sewing, just because of the difference in materials. You have so much more hardware in bag making, and it's an investment, but it's super rewarding because there's no fitting involved. And there's so many different styles that you can make. Wallets, bags, travel bags, small, big, slouchy, structured. And I'm trying to fill out a collection that covers a lot more. Like I'm looking into doing a travel bag. I don't have a travel bag yet. Maybe like a business, not necessarily a laptop bag, but maybe you could use it for that. So I have holes in my collection still because I only have about 17, I think. I also have the free one. So if you want to kind of ease into it, figure out my pattern style, my video style, my writing style, I have a free pattern as well. It is the Triad strap pack. So it's just straps. It's 3 different kinds of straps that you can make. You have one here. Oh yeah, this is also the Moonwake that Ellen made. There's a color pop strap where you have the color that kind of runs down the center of the strap. And then I have a buckle strap and a double-sided strap. So
I used the lining on me.
yeah, so this is her lining. And then she added it to her handles, which is really cool. And then I have, the double-sided strap and the buckle strap, which that's just the 3 strap free pattern that I have. So yeah, anybody have any questions? Yes.
So you don't use Decaville light with the heat press,
Yes, you can.
but
So-
do you with it if it's
Do I?
vinyl?
Yeah. So what you want to do is any vinyl that you use, you want to test on a scrap to make sure that it can handle the heat. I've never met a vinyl that couldn't handle being pressed. I know that it's like, typically people think, oh, it's vinyl, it'll melt, you can't press that. But with a warm iron, I've never had a problem. But I also, if I'm using a new vinyl that I've never used before, I will test on a scrap. But for Decoville Light, it does like a lighter iron. I'll use the wool setting, which is like 320 on my machine. And then press for 8 seconds with a spritz of water, leave it for 30 minutes to cool. And that's kind of my recipe for Decoville Light. But if it's hotter, it might bubble or lift. And then your vinyl might not like the heat anyway. So
I have found that in turning a bag, birthing it, sometimes it gets all wrinkly.
yes. So a lot of the times that will happen if it was still warm or if the iron was too hot when you pressed it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And for my patterns, a lot of my patterns are a drop-in lining. Not a lot, but some are a drop-in lining. I know Rudinea is technically a drop-in lining, but I did add on instructions for birthing it, for turning it. But I always make sure the turning is not painful. I know a lot of people say that turning bags is painful when it's like a very small hole and you have to stuff your bag into it. I try to avoid that at all costs. So when you're turning bags for my patterns, they're typically not hard to turn. So anyone else?
Great question.
Yeah, it is a good question.
Where do you get your hardware?
So I typically get my hardware from 2 places. Mormino is Lauren is the owner, and she's kind of one of the biggest names in the bag making community for like her YouTube channel, her hardware. She sells vinyl and like printed water resistant canvas and things like that. She has a really great website full of kits, and she even has clothing on there. But she does custom prints a lot. So she'll do drops that are like, I think the 1st and 15th of every month, she'll do a drop. But she has a YouTube channel as well. Her name's Lauren, but her company is Mormino, 3 words. The other company that I use if I'm stocking myself up, like I'm not getting just one off of something. If I'm stocking myself, I'll go to Emmeline, which is in Canada. Yes, it's in Canada, but the exchange rate is in our favor. So that's a good thing. And then they ship super fast, usually same day. And then if you can do the DHL, that's perfect. It's more expensive, but it'll get here in 2 days. Or the regular post is usually about 8 days for here. So yeah, that's where I get my hardware. I like to go to Emmeline because they usually have absolutely everything, and they're rarely out of colors. Lauren also has everything, but I go to her usually if I'm like, I need this now. Or I only need this like one thing or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I've always just gone to Emmeline. I guess I could definitely move over to Mormino and kind of
Fireweed.
there's
stitches.
Fireweed. Yeah.
Fireweed Stitches in Alaska. ships
She's in
very, very
Alaska.
fast. I just bought a couple, they were stuffed flat rate bubble envelopes full of like either silver or antique brass color, and it came with all sorts of stuff.
Nice. Yeah.
$50 for
What
a
else is there?
couple pounds.
There's a couple custom groups, but they don't have everything all the time.
Yeah.
And then like Bringberry, but she's also in Canada, I believe, Eastern Canada. So yeah, there's some options, but those are my 2 main ones. Yeah. Anybody else?
Wonderful.
All right.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate that we are going to have the workshop, and what's included in the workshop is the machine will be set up and ready for you. You don't have to bring your machine. The kit. So the kit again, leather's coming from Bodio, L&K here. There'll be Regal Blue, and then
I don't think I even talked about that.
this gold, the gold hardware. This is the Sky crossbody bag, and this is what we'll be making. And this is what we know so far. We have no idea what this lining is going to be. Barb and I are going to have to agree.
Is that Mark?
But that's all right, because I agreed to the outside. I can let Barb choose the inside, and we'll be happy. This will be Sunday, the 20th of April. So $119, it's lunch, your kit, and the machine will be here for you. So it'll be really exciting. And Erica can take us through. She's going to be the instructor. So you'll get an opportunity to play with these snaps and rivets and things like that. So this is really a great opportunity to say, do I love this?
Mhm.
And then the answer is yeah.
What kind of machines will we be using?
We'll be using straight stitch machines. And at this moment, I think it might be the HD9, but I can't promise. But I do believe,
And they're great.
when last I heard, it was going to be the Janome HD9.
At what time?
It'll be like 9 to 4, 9:30 to 4.
Yeah.
Till you get her done.
It should be easy enough. That's a quicker pattern. So there are card slots inside. I don't think I actually talked about it, which is, I think I was saving it to the end. So there's card slots inside. This one is the large size. There's two sizes. This is small and a large. And this one's the large, and it has 6 card slots. The smaller one has 4 card slots. And I do the card slots a different way than typical card slots are done. A lot of other patterns have you kind of do this accordion style where you measure, mark, then fold and press, measure, mark, and fold and press. And I do them completely different. So there's not all that pressing or marking. You do some pressing, but it's not like accordion style. So I like to find ways, I like to find different ways to do typical techniques so that, you know, keep you on your toes. So that one is a good crossbody. I also carry this one, not this bag, but this pattern regularly. So that's what I have on me right now. Yeah, I love it for little events and traveling and stuff like that. So it's perfect.
I made 7 for bridesmaids gifts for my niece, and they were different linings inside, the same vinyl on the outside. And I just realized I made a strap, had a chain strap, but I also made little wrist straps.
Oh yeah. So it can be a
that's a
wristlet.
cute idea.
I think I may have put that in the pattern. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just thought I made it a little smaller, but it had to fit, you know, our
Yeah,
huge bricks of phones.
exactly. I know I have a big one too, so it's like it's got to fit. And this one does fit in the small, but really nothing else does.
Nothing else
after.
did, yeah. Yeah.
So it's just for essentials. But yeah, any other questions at all? Or you can all come up and look at the bags, fondle them, open them up, see the materials that I was talking about before. And then the papers that you got, all of those QR codes go to my website. But they each go to each listing. But once you're on the website, you can look around and see. And I don't have anything but patterns on my website, so it's pretty easy to find what you're looking for. And then yeah, then it's just a download. So yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to say goodbye to those at home. Thanks for joining us today. And now we're going to have our secret private meeting.
Secret private meeting.
Well, bye, everyone. So what we'll do now is we'll do a show and tell.